eCommerce podcast, where technology's fast and biz is a blast.
In life and in business, time is precious. It's why customers stay or leave and why businesses succeed or fail. We're here to give a voice to everything that makes business, whether as a customer or as a CEO, easier and more rewarding. Welcome to the Customer Commerce Podcast. Let's dive in. Welcome to the second episode of the Customer Commerce Podcast. I am your host, Jess, and with me are David Brier, branding extraordinaire and the most passionate man on earth, Mikel Lindsaar, CEO and founder of Store Connect and a walking encyclopedia. Hello, gentlemen.
David must have written that intro himself.
I did not. I just learned that about myself.
The most beautiful man in the world.
I just learned that about myself. I'm gonna walk with my chest out proud for the rest of the day. That's awesome.
Look, I know you guys too well. I'm really not blowing wind up your butts, but I feel like that's what I've learned in the last few months of knowing both of you. Extremely passionate and extremely knowledgeable.
Thank you.
So to give a little bit more of a context to the listeners who may have listened to the first episode and been like, what the F is happening? So basically, we have quite literally jumped into the deep end with this podcast, and we're just figuring it out as we go. So the structure will probably change throughout the episodes.
I think definitely not probably.
You think not?
I think definitely change. There is zero chance that this podcast stays the same format moving forward. Let's just be really clear to our guests.
Yeah. The podcast is going to be like hair gel. It's going to be like, well, we hope for the best.
Okay, good. I was trying to be polite, but if we're going to give them the full truth, then great.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to change. But what won't change is each episode we are going to be giving so much value in the tips, the tricks, and just overall knowledge of the e-commerce world, specifically for small businesses, non-for-profits, and just any kind of business area. So let's jump right in. Mikel, you wanted to talk about something specific this particular episode. What did you want to talk about?
Stunned silence. D2C, like what is direct to consumer? I think, one of the areas that I got into with building what I've built with Store Connect and everything else that I've helped a whole heap of companies transition on is this idea of direct to consumer. And I think a lot of listeners and people out there are familiar with B2B and B2C. And this is something called D2C. It's can be a bit of both. It's sort of interesting at the same time as unique. And I wanted to sort of explain that a little bit and just make sure that people had sort of a working definition of what D2C is. So what is D2C? Very, very simply, D2C stands for direct to consumer. And in its simplest form, you can think of D2C as a company that produces its own products and services that sells them directly to the people that are consuming those products and services. That's D2C. It's really, really simple. It can scale from the kid on the side of the road selling lemonade at the lemonade stand. As long as he's selling lemonade that he made, right? If he's selling Sprite or some lemonade drink that he bought from a wholesaler and then is selling that at his lemonade stand, he's a B2C company, right? He's buying product from somewhere else that he himself did not manufacture and he's selling it on to consumers that are coming up, right? If he is going to some wholesaler and buying boxes and boxes of lemonade and then going and flogging them off to other kids selling lemonade stands, he's now a B2B business. He's selling products that he did not manufacture to other businesses for them to sell, right? But if he's making all the lemonade and he's got the whole family back at the house pumping out dozens of liters of lemonade and he is selling them to consumers who then buy them, or he is selling them to businesses, right, that might be consuming them internally or whatever. Maybe the business is buying all this lemonade for their staff. That is a D2C transaction, right?
Now, but I want to interject a point of clarification, not only for listeners, but for all of us. Now, you take the concept and you go, okay, someone is making something, and this is a result of a conversation I had earlier this week with a business owner, and they make something, but they use a channel like Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Now, while they're making it, while they're fulfilling the aspect of making it and selling it directly to the consumer, but the bottom line is they don't actually have a relationship because of the way Amazon is set up. They don't have a even though it's following that definition, that's not really a pure D2C
Well,
scenario,
it's not.
correct?
It's not a direct to consumer at all because it's not direct.
Exactly.
So that's the key thing, that the direct aspect, there has to be no degrees of separation between you and the consumer. If Amazon's reselling it, if you're selling the lemonade to a supermarket and then they're reselling it, that's a B2B transaction, right? Companies that are building their own product and selling it to Amazon, who then sell it to the client, that's actually a B2B business. They don't have any control over that end customer, right? They don't even get the email and name and address of that customer. Furthermore, Amazon make it against their terms of service for you to try and get it. You're not allowed to include a QR code. You're not allowed to include a, hey, please come and register this product with us. You're not allowed to do any of that if you're selling via Amazon. Amazon is not a direct consumer business model for the business. It is sometimes for Amazon. They do make their own products and sell them. But this whole direct to consumer thing is the key word, or direct to customer, sorry. The key word is direct to the customer, the person consuming that product, right? There cannot be a middleman or a middle person or whatever we want to say these days in between you and the customer.
See what's interesting. What's interesting though with that is if any of us spoke to any of those CEOs of those companies, they say, "Well, we're the B2C." They would in their own minds. It's very interesting. Well, I'm a B2C, or they might even say D2C.
Right.
But the thing is that I mean, it's just an interesting nuance. It is them making it, but it's also the directness. It's the channel as well as the making.
Yeah, I mean, you've spoken to CEOs like this. I've spoken to CEOs like this. I was speaking to one company that is a massive name brand in America. They do hundreds of millions of dollars a year in sales and sell 70% of their goods via their Amazon store.
Mm-hmm.
And they think they're direct to consumer, but truly 70% of their business is B2B, right? Because it's going via Amazon. And this is something that I think CEOs and business owners need to get their head around, because if you don't own your relationship with your customers, someone else does. And that means at any point you can be replaced out of that equation.
So what you're really saying is that D2C really is H to H, is that direct to consumer is human to human.
Human to human. Yeah, perhaps, but I don't want to bring in more acronyms. I think we're sort of acronym heavy. Let's just call it building a direct relationship, right? You want to be building these relationships directly with your customers. And the other thing about this, there's a lot of products out there that specialize in B2C and B2B. They're all over the joint. You can Google thousands of e-commerce products out there. E-commerce as a problem is pretty much solved. It's really interesting. One of the questions I get the most about building Store Connect is, why did you do that? Like, are you on drugs? Because there are so many products out there. Like, why did you try and take on Shopify or whomever else, Magento, BigCommerce, WooCommerce? There's literally tens of thousands of e-commerce solutions out there, plus all the bespoke ones. And the truth is, I'm not really trying to take them on. I'm trying to build a different model. And the model that we're trying to create is really get to know your customer. And D2C companies, or every company should be D2C, let me just put that out there, to some degree, maybe with the exception of some big manufacturing warehouse organization that produces nameless widgets and sends them out. But you need to build your brand and you need to be in communication with those businesses. And if you want to grow, you need to be D2C to that degree. And the only way you can become D2C is really knowing what your customers need and want and building that. A B2C business, it doesn't matter if I'm trying to sell something to you, Jess, in a B2C business, I'm trying to sell you this pen, and you don't like this pen, fine, I'll sell you this pen, or you don't like this pen, fine, I'll sell you this pen, it's blue, that one's blue, there's two different pens. you'll buy one of them. Like, I don't really care which one you buy because I don't make them. Like, I've got choice. I can just swap any pen in and out and just sell you whichever pen you want. And it doesn't matter. But if I make this pen, then I have to really care about what your preferences are, why you bought this pen, how many pens of these have you bought, over what time period do these pens last, do you leave any testimonials about these pens, are these pens your favorite, have you taken a photo of this pen in an action shot, and posted it on your social media because you love it so much. This is all really important to me as a D2C business. And that's why Store Connect is built with this whole get to know your customer back end to it, and really being able to get that data. So I hope that sort of clarifies the difference between B2B, selling to other businesses that then sell onwards, B2C, which is selling other people's product, which you then sell onwards, and D2C, which is selling your own product, which you then sell direct to your customer. That's the really clear differentiation, and hopefully that summarizes it.
Great. And I guess I have the question now on that. What do you think, over your experience with Store Connect and just observing even beforehand, what do you think the biggest challenges are for D2C? Because that's a lot of expectations and a lot of pressure and a lot more time and energy and money involved in having to have that relationship, which I wonder if that's why it's easier to be B2C than D2C. So what have you found with... Will you give me your viewpoint of what you found?
Yeah,
in
totally.
the area?
I mean, if you're not D2C and you're producing a widget that customers are buying, then you're probably B2B because you're selling to other businesses to then be a B2C business, or you're selling to Amazon, or you're selling to Kohl's or Target or Currys Electronics or whatever. You're selling to an organization which is then selling. So you're a B2B. Okay. If you're manufacturing a widget, you're either really going to be B2B or D2C, unless you manufacture a widget and then sell other products alongside your widget, in which case you're sort of like B2C, and like you can be mixes of these things. They're not all you are just this or just this or just this. You can have a mix. To answer your question though, the biggest challenge I think is, well, what I've found is business owners don't actually think with the idea that they're not D2C already. Like, to David's example, he was talking to that CEO. He told me this example earlier. He was talking to a CEO and they say, oh yeah, we're a D2C company. And well, how do you sell your goods? Well, 70% goes through Amazon. It's like, well, okay. So 70% of your business is B2B. And they go, yeah, good point. So the biggest challenge is A, getting over the idea that you're not D2C, like coming up with that realization. B, there is a bit more expense in building that relationship, but that all comes down to like, how do you brand your product and how do you get it out in the market and the long-term revenue side. It's sort of like business medicine when you're selling. It's not going to taste great at the start and it might have a few bumps and hurdles getting up and running, but the long-term benefit is that you're building this relationship with those customers. And if you sell 20,000 widgets via Amazon, you have to figure out how to sell 20,000 widgets next year as well, with no way to advertise to those people except via Amazon. So that's incredible business risk. If you sell 20,000 widgets direct to consumer or direct to customer, you now have 20,000 identities that you can market to, do promotions to, communicate to, and a percentage of those will come back for free.
But the interesting thing for me is that when you look at this, you go, how much dependence do you want to have on the channels and all these other pieces versus independence, where you can actually build, you can show initiative, you could be proactive, you could do things, and you can have levels of interaction that you can only have as a D2C. You can't have in any other model. And that is, I think, probably the biggest overlooked and underestimated bit of power that a business can have, is that as a D2C, you have autonomy, you can be proactive, you can call the shots, you can find out actual information and get actual really useful insight that you cannot if you're not a D2C. There's so many advantages.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. So then my next question, because I'm just asking, I'm thinking about it and going, well, I guess this is great that you have someone like me that's just like, I don't know, a little bit of an airhead of like, but why? And how is that difficult? And how is that different? So
I have
now
many
I
many
wonder,
adjectives for you, Jess. Airhead does not appear on that list. Let me just
oh,
really clearly put that into the.
okay, good. I'll
For
read
those
that.
of you that are only listening to this, that was a beautiful moment. I saw the look in each of their eyes. It was incredible. I just want you to see, if you're only listening to this, you're really only getting half of the enjoyment.
Okay, good. Carry on, Jess.
Okay, so my question is, you find a D2C, and let's say they're struggling and they don't know how to expand and they don't have a relationship, like the business owner that you met, David, that was like, oh yeah, we're not a D2C. We actually don't have any of the data of our customers, who they are, what they like. So, and we have this with Store Connect, right? Businesses come with their problems and then they're easily solved with what we can provide them. But what is the first, what, give me like 3 things. You're talking to a business owner, Michael, and they're saying, this is the situation we're in. We have no customer relationship. We want that because we know that that's how to grow. What do you then go, here are the 3 things I want to look at for your business to then take and start moving into some direction towards that? Does that make sense? You can reword that
Sure.
question.
Talk about questions without notice. Crikey. All right. What would we do? I think the first thing is, do you have a list of who your existing customers are? So a lot of D2C businesses, even if they're selling through Amazon or whatever, they will have some list of some customers that they have sold to directly at some point over time. That list is gold and quite often incredibly underutilized. So the first thing would be, do you have a list of every customer that you have sold something to? Do you know what it is they bought, when they bought it? Good. Let's get that into your new customer relationship management system, CRM. I mean, that could be a spreadsheet to begin with. At Store Connect, we're built on top of Salesforce, so you'd put it into Salesforce. But getting that initial list of customers that have bought your product, that's critical. Actually, the first step before that one is don't change anything, right? Keep your existing channels open. Make sure you still earn money. Don't turn everything off and try and do this cold turkey. That's a road to disaster. You want to make incremental changes towards the ideal scene. You don't want to try and nuke the company and rebuild it from scratch. So keep doing what you're doing. Then find a list of your existing customers, get them into a CRM, and then when you've built that D2C channel, which you could build through Store Connect or whatever e-commerce product you're using, really, but I recommend Store Connect for some random reason. Once you've got that business in place, start marketing to those individuals to get them to go to your direct to channel, direct to consumer, direct to customer website so that you can start selling to them individually and directly and start surveying them. So get them on the phone or send them a post-sale email that might say, hey, thanks for buying. We have a survey for you. If you fill out the survey, we'll give you 10% off your next order, or here's a coffee on us, or whatever. Start getting direct information from those customers, because the challenge you're going to have in a D2C model is, how do you market to more people like the customers that you've already got? So you're going to have to find who they are, where do they live, what do they think, what problem are they trying to solve with your product, what do they like about your product, what don't they like about your product. You know, a great thing to put in a survey question is, what don't we do well that you would like us to do? You know, because it gets their opportunity to tell you and they feel listened to. And start cultivating that data, getting it back into your CRM, and then repeating the process, finding that a little bit more, improve your product a bit, come back to the start marketing to more people like that, you know, cold marketing, or do referral finders fees. Hey, do you know someone that also needs this product? It really depends on the type of product you're selling, right? You know, if you're selling a one-off thing, maybe referrals are going to be a great source of leads because it comes occasionally. If it's something that people buy all the time, and maybe that's not so good. But You need to figure out your own marketing. I can't really help you with that. But really on the direct to customer line, you're looking at how do we get more information out of that customer base and start expanding that list of identities that we have. Because that's the key thing that drives direct to consumer. It's how many identities do you have? How many individuals can you market to? How many of those can you actually communicate to and get them to come back to the website? So that would be the 3 steps. Don't change anything. Get all your existing list of identities into a system that you can then manage, cultivate, market to, communicate to with their purchase history, ideally, and then start marketing to them and surveying them and getting them to buy directly from you and giving them incentives to do that, and then repeating that process.
Love it. Okay. And then David, from your, branding, marketing, passionate about all things life, what's your kind of input into, I guess, what Michael was saying in terms of you got to market that out and make it known that you care about the other person? What do you think, I don't know, these businesses can do while they're getting names, while they're getting, survey answers? Like what, I don't know, what's a way that people can, like a business can communicate, hey, we actually care for you, for the customer, and kind of get that interest in?
It's, to me, it's the difference. It's always looking at every interaction as, how do we exceed the expectation of what are they expecting? You got to, so in other words, so first of all, it requires paying attention. You got to like, okay, what's the benchmark? What's the benchmark? Because every interaction, we live in such a busy world, and everyone's claiming to be the best, and and they're the best, or if they're not the best, then they'll undercut and they'll be the cheapest. So there's always this competition, noise, and all that kind of crap. So what I look at is, all right, well, how is it going to best their greatest possible aspiration? How can I become so good at what I do? And that the only way you can do that is obviously with direct to consumer. It's because, as Michael was describing what he was describing, I was thinking to myself, it's like, what's the clearest example of like the difference between direct to consumer versus not quite, things that people may confuse as? It's kind of like me going to my favorite place to get an amazing espresso beverage, and me going in there and actually ordering it and having the barista make it and give it to me. Whereas the alternate would be, I go in and I've got to tell someone about the order. They're going to place the order. They're going to go and they're going to then bring it to me in the back of the restaurant, because it's hands off, man. You can't interact with the baristas directly. Are you kidding? And so there's that kind of thing. But if I have that direct connection, I can look at, every time David comes in, he always loves when I put 2 chocolate covered espresso beans along with his cortado, and he just freaking loves that. So I'm not even going to wait for him to ask. He's going to actually give it to me in advance. And not only that, but then he's going to do something while I'm waiting, because he knows that I love this particular music. So it's like, no, that's like on a very retail basis, but that can be done. It doesn't have to be just in a retail setting. It can be, how much more business are we all doing online? Well, there are plenty of D2C companies that are doing business online. Well, how are they interacting with me via email, via messaging, via texting, doing things that anticipate and show that I, as the customer, really, really matter? And every gesture has to represent that.
Yeah, and one of the points on that is, what David's very good at is branding and differentiation. And if you're a B2C or if you're a B2B company and your product is being sold by someone else, you almost have zero differentiation, because you're just another bike, you're just another widget, you're just another toy, and you just become a choice of toy, right? As you start building your D2C platform, you start differentiating and you start providing a brand and an experience that is unique to your product. And you ask anyone certain questions around what's their favorite blah. You have to ask on their interest level. no use asking me about what my favorite vitamin E cream is, because I couldn't tell. Actually, I could tell you what my wife's favorite vitamin E cream is, but I don't use it. And the funny thing is that we all have our favorite types of product, and the ones we love the most are the ones that we buy direct. You don't buy, I mean, maybe you can, but I doubt you can buy, or my wife would appreciate me buying or sending her to Amazon.com to buy the latest piece of designer fashion or jewelry. You know, you're not going to go and buy a brand new $50,000 Gucci bag from Amazon. Why? Because that B2C relationship devalues the product. Where'd you get the Gucci bag? Amazon.com. What? Like, why? Well, it was cheap. It was on sale. Like, but that's not why you buy a Gucci bag. It's like, you know, where'd you get the Rolex from? Oh, I bought it from Amazon. No, you buy it from Rolex. There are people which fly to different countries to get to the right store to buy the right product from the brand that they want to buy it from. Yeah. So that's an extreme example at the luxury end, but why? Why is the luxury end almost exclusively D2C? And this is something that business owners need to really think about. Well, what is it about that luxury brand that allows that luxury brand to charge 10,000 times the material cost for a product that I can produce to a better quality for 1/10,000th of the cost, yet someone's willing to pay that much more money for a couple of letters on the side? What is that difference there? And the difference is simply that luxury brand is going D2C. They know who their customer is. They know what their customers want. They're incredibly differentiated. They have an amazing brand strength, and they can communicate directly with their customers. And that's just next level. This applies to any industry, any company, any brand, even the most ridiculously commoditized goods and services can still be D2C. Pet food can be D2C. You know, this is the thing, and I think that's what I'm rambling a bit, so feel free to cut me off. But that, I think, is that communication. You've got that differentiation. How do you know that? Why do the customers come to you? Cultivate that. Build it.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, this is interesting because we're really, in a certain way, we're kind of splitting hairs because there are hybrids. Like, for example, you know, if I go to, like, you go to Etsy, right? Etsy is an online thing, but because I am ordering directly from that craftsman or that artist or whatever like that, there is that sense of it. So I mean, it's a communication channel.
That is D2C. Don't confuse channels with D2C and B2C and B2B, right? Mm-hmm. The Etsy product model is that when you order from Etsy, I believe, the end creator gets your full email address, details,
totally.
All that sort of stuff, right?
I could say from personal experience, that's what happens.
Right. So that is D2C. It's just that you're paying a premium to use the Etsy marketplace, the Etsy tooling, all of that sort of stuff. So you're just paying a higher transaction fee. That's totally fine. That's direct to consumer. You're building that direct relationship. If that consumer wants to buy your product again, they can go to Etsy or they can go to your website because they know who you are. You have their contact details. You can market to them. That's fine. That's not the case with selling on eBay or selling through a third-party retail store or third-party website where you don't get that information, or Amazon or whatever. I think there's two aspects of this, and I mean, the definition still holds. D2C is selling direct to the consumer, selling the product that you make directly to someone that you sell to and getting all of their information and details. How much that transaction costs, what channel it's on, is it on WhatsApp, is it on Twitter, is it on a is it on a website, is it whatever else, that's irrelevant.
So there's going to be, but to that point, there's going to be, so to that exact point, there's going to be B2Bs, quote unquote, that actually are D2C, that actually they're selling their product to 100%. Directly to their customers. So I mean, so
which are businesses. Yeah, like that example that I gave of the lemonade stand. A business buying a whole bunch of lemonade for their own staff. That's a direct to consumer where the consumer is a business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So then I want to kind of wrap this episode up with a mini little plug. It doesn't have to be a plug actually, but just how does Store Connect, how is Store Connect in this world? How are they a cheerleader of some kind to the D2C? How do they help in that area that we've just spoken about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I built Store Connect to solve this exact problem, and that's why we call ourselves D2C Solved, right? And the reason I built it that way, if you remember those 3 steps that I was talking about, don't change what you're doing, and then build up your CRM and start marketing to it and getting information on it. So when I first started Store Connect, I was having companies asking me to build bespoke e-commerce products and all sorts of things. And I was like, well, yeah, sure. I mean, we can take $250,000 of your dollars, but why aren't you using Shopify or whatever? And the communication that kept coming back is we just need a way to really understand and know who our customers are, what they're doing, understand their behavior, run our business process, do all this sort of stuff. And that's why we've built Store Connect on top of Salesforce, because Salesforce lets you capture all of that information exactly in the way that you want your business to capture it. So the problem with this on other platforms, you know, I don't want to bash on Shopify. It's a fantastic product for what it does, but you have to run your business the way that Shopify wants you to run your business. You can't modify fields and datums and all this sort of stuff. It has to, if your business can run exactly how Shopify wants you to run, it's perfect. Use it. But if you're in a situation where you need to capture additional information, or you want to modify how you're saving that data, or you want to interrogate the database with reports, and you want to do segmented marketing on stuff that all of that data is in one spot and you've got a full history, that's why we built Store Connect, so that companies can build that database of customers and really understand it and get to use it and leverage it and expand on it and build their whole business around that information and being extremely flexible and extendable and that sort of thing. So that's why we built Store Connect. If your business can run on Shopify and you're not really looking to scale massively in terms of growing your company and your operations, stay on Shopify. It's the right solution for you. But if you really want to grow your business, you really want to capture this D2C market, you really want to expand and automate your back-end processes and make sure that when a customer buys something, they get this email and then that SMS and then this email and this survey package, and all of that gets automated and built together. That's exactly what we built Store Connect for, and you should give us a call.
Sounds pretty good to me. All right, we're going to wrap that up then, and we'll keep this adventure going of the customer commerce. Thank you, guys.
No worries.
Very, very good.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you had an awesome time, leaving you with ideas on how to improve your business and wow customers. If you'd like to leave a real customer's story, head to the link in our show notes and cuss away. Love the show? Please subscribe and leave a review, because that enables us to help more businesses in building real relationships with customers and grow more rapidly. See you next time.